Hi, everyone. My name is Moses Bwayo, and I'm speaking with Richard Ladkani, the director of YANUNI. YANUNI is a wonderful, powerful film that I saw a few months ago. I really enjoyed it, and I was lucky to see it in the cinema, which I would recommend if you can. And it just reminds us of the tasks we have today in this world, in an ever-changing world. It follows Juma, who is a chief in the Amazon for this Amazonian tribe. Uh, and I mean, I was quite surprised and shocked that, there was some of these tribes were actually very progressive, that they have a chief who's female, but she really cares for the land, for the people, for her culture, and for the Amazon forest. So for me, I just I felt like the film was just urgent today, with climate change and our ever-changing environment, and some governments that are calling climate change hoaxes and things like that. And just to cut through the misinformation, I think this film is urgent and poignant, and I think you should see it. Thank you. Richard, how did you end up in the Amazon trying to make a film about Juma?
Well, look, I mean, the whole story started in 2019, actually, when I saw all these
Yeah,
images of the Amazon burning.
yeah,
And it was like on TV, on CNN, and everywhere. And I was thinking, this is the biggest ecosystem in the world that is under attack by these loggers who are just burning it down. And maybe there is a way to reconnect people emotionally to why this matters for all of us. Like, this is not an isolated story in Brazil. This is
yeah,
not just something far away that they need to worry about, but this is actually our air that is being destroyed right now because the air we're breathing wherever we are in New York, in LA, in London is actually being generated by the Amazon. So
yeah.
if this forest is burning, we should all be shocked and be angry and want to do something. But I saw a lot of curiosity, around. I'd be like, oh, this looks bad, all these fires, but nobody felt like this is their problem, So I
Yeah.
was like, we need to reconnect people, and my tool is filmmaking. So I thought if I can maybe tell a story from the Amazon that is emotional enough and like creates empathy for these problems there and connects us again and makes us understand that this is our problem. This is not like a Brazil problem. Then maybe we can, the world will be a better place. Maybe there is a chance for the world to wake up to kind of
Mm.
understand that we need to cry out loud and be like, this has to stop. So this is always my approach for films. Like there is something going on and I want to shine a light on it. But in this case, I just wanted to shine a different light on it because obviously all the information we've gotten from the Amazon has not really made us care much more. So that's how it started back then, and it's been a 5, 6 year journey ever since.
And how did you find Juma? I mean, she's such a force, right?
Mm.
I mean, to her tribe, for her people, but also, people within Brazil. How did you connect with them?
Right.
Um,
It was actually, my approach is always I look for interesting characters, and I had like talked to like NGOs and researchers and journalists and people who are active filmmakers, who are active in the area, and I asked them, have you come across a character that really touched you, that really moved you, that is really exceptional? And I was given a number of different names, but it was, only like 4 or 5 months later, it was a lot of research that we did that I finally got introduced to Juma Xipaia, who got on that list, but I wasn't able to check her out or find much information. She was like like a name that didn't have any kind of association with it on the internet. I was like, why is she even on the list, right? Like, who put her there? But then this journalist pointed me in that direction and said, you cannot start your film until you have met Juma Xipaia. She's really extraordinary. And then I found out that she's actually in hiding and that she just survived her sixth attempt on her life. So she almost died from poisoning and barely made it, and it decided to go into like isolation for like a year or more. She had already been completely away from the public face of the planet because she didn't want to talk to anyone. She was like devastated of like everyone wants to kill her. But then this journalist that I knew and that she knew convinced her to get on a call with me just to have a chat, like because she said like there's this guy and he wants to make a movie and I think you should talk to him, it's quite serious. And then we had our first call, and I must say I was so blown away by her, I don't know, her way of speaking, her way of connecting to me through a crappy video connection. I
Mhm.
was like in tears. She told me her story and she told me about how she barely survived and how the world, is not understanding what is going on. And she was saying like, is anyone out there even listening to us? Like,
Mhm.
have they forgotten us or have they never listened? And I just felt this woman can create so much empathy, so much feeling that if I'm allowed to follow her with a camera over some time, I knew I would have a very interesting story because this woman was so interesting and her story was so interesting. So that's how it kind of all began. And back then, I had to speak with a translator on the call because I didn't speak Portuguese. And I quickly learned that this translator is actually a big security risk for her, that she wasn't
Mm.
comfortable to openly speak locations, details, anything about her life, really, because she thought, how do I know that this translator is not going to sell that information to like a hitman who's going to kill me, you know?
Mm.
So I needed to get rid of the translator, and the only way that was possible is I needed to learn Portuguese. So I took lessons right away, like 3 lessons per week, and got on an app and everything. And 6 months later, I actually spoke Portuguese, and we were able to chat without a translator, and I was very happy because that then allowed me to approach her much closer and to be able to earn her trust and really spend time to listen to her, to get comfortable. And that's when she slowly started to agree on making this film. And I must add, maybe another very important thing was for me that I offered her straight from the beginning a very leading role in the film. I wanted her to
Yeah.
have ownership on the film. And in the beginning, I offered her a co-directing credit. I thought that could be interesting because she's such a great storyteller. She really has arcs of stories. When she tells stories, they always have a beginning, middle, and end. So I could see that she would actually be creatively really powerful as a voice. But later, then it turned into a producer role because she actually joined the ministry as a government official, and they didn't allow anyone to hold a full-time job besides the official job at the ministry. And directing was considered a full-time job. So we were able to move it to producer, which you can do in the evenings and on the weekend and be kind of like it's not full time. So she's now a producer on the film, but it's her film. And I see it like that. And I just wanted to help her make her film. So that's
Mm.
the approach to this. And she calls YANUNI a film from the territory to the world.
Mm. Wow. It's indeed from the territory. I mean, when I saw the film, for me, I like there's multiple scenes, but there's one scene when um her husband, you're with her husband, and they're trying to like um uh, uh bomb or destroy, this rig. And you're right there, you're
Mm.
right there with them. And I mean, I know you spent multiple like months and days, out in the field. How was that like just filming and I mean, could you just like go through that process? How was that process like?
Well, her husband turned out to be a really, amazing, powerful soldier in the Brazilian special forces that are part of the Environmental Protection Agency of Brazil. But it's a unique, like Delta Force type, elite kind of people that go into the Amazon to actually destroy illegal mining bases that are causing a lot of the devastation in the Amazon, that are also the root cause of the logging that follows the gold mining. So it's a very interesting job that they have. And as soon as I got to know him and also earned his trust, which wasn't easy, I was able to go on these missions with IBAMA. The unit is called IBAMA. And they had one condition. I had to do it alone because I would take the seat of a soldier. So everything I did, I had to do myself, the sound, the filming, directing, offloading footage, drone flying, whatever I needed to do myself. And I needed to also, they told me, just take care of myself because I already took the place of one soldier. So they were down one security unit to keep them safe. So they said, look, we can't protect you. You just have to, take care of yourself. If shots are fired, you just take cover. But we're there to do our job, and you're there to be the fly on the wall and to witness, but we're not your bodyguards or your security. So in a way, that was a big challenge, but I accepted and I took the risk. I was like, okay, why not? Because I really, really needed to show the devastation that these miners are causing. And it was the only way to get to the front lines because the indigenous people can't go there. If they go anywhere near, they will just be killed, shot, attacked, and murdered. So the only way to go is with a special soldier force. And yeah, it was quite a challenge. I mean, to keep up with them and these extreme conditions and it got very dicey at times. I mean, once, we they were kind of blowing up the ship and there was an incident where something went wrong and we almost all, blew up because we couldn't get off the boat fast enough and the thing was just going to detonate and it was a very very close moment where I did feel this could be it, but no matter what, I decided that whatever happens, I'm gonna keep filming because I was there for a reason. I was there to document their job and their work, in the Amazon, and it just got really close and really hairy. So I'm glad I got back alive and then nobody was hurt, but it was a very, very close call.
And was that the only close call? And did you ever consider maybe like, why am I doing this at some point?
In a way, no, because I really wanted to do it, So it was
Mm,
more, I really wanted to be there and I really wanted to do it in the best possible way and in the safest possible way. So security obviously is always a big issue, not only my own security, but also that of Juma and Hugo. So, there were situations that were dicey, I would say, where we were threatened or there was like a possibility of something happening. Um, there were the riots, when we were tear
yeah.
gassed, there was like the moments when Juma was threatened and they were circled out, like, we're being marked for as a
Hmm.
target. And also yeah, during the Obama raids, yes, there were sometimes shots were fired, like sometimes they actually shot at us and we had to duck down or there was like very extreme conditions on the planes, on the helicopters, and the way they chase the illegal miners sometimes is very hairy because they need to go really low with the helicopters and if they hit a tree or a branch, I was actually more afraid of like an accident
Mm.
than being shot or being like attacked and killed through like hostile fire or something. It was more the missions were so extreme on these
Mm.
helicopters. Like we would have 20 to 30 like landings and takeoffs in very difficult environments, very close to trees, very close to big machines and cables and all kinds of things that can go wrong. So when you see it, you're like, it really feels very, very unsafe. For them, it's the daily business, like what they do. But for me, I really had to not think too much about it. And in a way, the camera helped me sometimes to forget that these are really dangerous situations because I was there to do a job.
Yeah.
And that sometimes really protects you also in your mind, like psychologically. You think
Mm-hmm.
about aperture and sound and battery life and angles and being able to actually capture it rather than what is really going on here and is my life at risk right now or not. You try to just focus on the job and that protects
Mm-hmm.
you in some way,
Wow.
mentally at least.
Wow. So what do you hope audiences take from this?
You know,
And how has the
it's
reaction been actually in light like reaction, most especially like in Brazil, um,
yeah.
where this is happening and yeah.
Well, we had some great reactions, some of them quite surprising. So, I mean, as you asked the second half of your question, something comes to mind where, we showed the film. The first screening we ever had was in the Brazilian territory of Juma in her village. We made sure I wanted her people to see it first. And that was a real fun evening. They did some homemade popcorn and they brought out the drinks and they thought of it as like a party, like we're gonna watch the movie. But what was really cool is that not only did they give us great notes on the film of like how can we make it better? I mean, they really loved it as is, but they had little things about the music and maybe that face over here that they were smiling about, or that one moment where, someone had a mishap and something so they would be like giggling and laughing, but giving like little notes, and it was give us an idea of like that they actually loved the movie as it was, but they did have some good ideas. But the one thing that came out of it is that they said that they were so surprised to understand what Hugo is actually doing, what the IBAMA agency is actually doing, because they didn't understand it before. They have never been on any of these missions. They had never seen it on any film or TV, what they actually do. And now that they knew that they're going after these illegal miners who are making their life so hard and miserable, who are poisoning their rivers, who are cutting down their trees, they wanted to sign up. They wanted to volunteer to be like, I want to work for IBAMA. I want to be a soldier in IBAMA. I want to go there and really, go after these people who are destroying our forest. And that was like amazing. Indigenous people wanting to join the force that is mainly white Brazilians for now, unfortunately. I thought, how great is that? That the indigenous people now want to join this force and sign up and do the training and go out there. So that was great. And around the world, the film has been received wonderfully. Like we've won multiple audience awards. For example, in Brazil, the biggest festival in Brazil, we got the audience award in the white Brazilian part of São Paulo, where there's very few indigenous people, and they showed 400 films and we got the audience award, which was very meaningful because in Brazil many people do not understand what the indigenous people mean for the forest. They don't understand what's going on in the Amazon. For them it's just a huge forest that needs to be developed through our agriculture. Like they don't think of it as something that needs to be protected. So for this film to win the audience award was like, aha, that is amazing. That is something I didn't understand. That is something I want to support. So we were like, great. And besides that, the film has there's a big impact campaign attached to the film where we show the film at the climate conference, at like
Mm.
important meetings like the climate conference in London, the climate conference in Brazil right now. We show it in political environments, at the UN, for example. And that's where it's being used as a tool
Mm.
to make people understand in 2 hours what is the issue in a way that they have never seen it before, where they emotionally feel something, where they cry with Juma, they fear for Hugo's life when he goes into these missions, and they understand the stakes suddenly. So we feel the takeaway from the movie is that people are waking up, that
Yeah.
this is our problem. This is something that we all need to think of and care about. This is not something that is remotely isolated in Brazil. This is something where we need to listen that whatever we do, the consequences of our lives have an effect of what's happening in Brazil. The decisions we also make in our country with our forests, with our environment, like we need to think about these things because look at these warriors in Brazil, these heroes who are risking their lives for the environment, for the forest that actually we need to survive. So the takeaway of it is, what can I do here in my surroundings to protect nature and to reconnect with nature? Because it is important that we all care for nature. Because if we devastate our planet, we all are going to die. Like we're all going to disappear. The planet will survive, but humanity is not like safe from extinction. We can go extinct, if we don't take care. It's a possibility that we just disappear,
Yeah.
and then the planet can finally recover because
Mhm.
we destroyed it the way so that we can survive. The planet will surely survive. The forests are going to regrow, but maybe only once we are gone, you know?
Wow. Yeah, and in light of COP, which happened in Brazil, in the Amazon, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It
So
was actually in her home
yeah,
state. It was right there. Yeah.
yeah. How was that? Were you guys there? Did you screen? Like,
Yeah.
what?
So I didn't go because there was no need. Juma was representing the film in the
Mm,
best possible way. We had three screenings there. They were very powerful. We had thousands of people who came and saw it, in very big auditoriums. And the effect was fantastic. There was a lot of outrage. There was a lot of understanding. What I love is that the indigenous people are really behind the film. They're supporting it as a movement. This is our film from the indigenous people to the world. So for Juma, that was always the key, that the indigenous people unite behind it, that it's not a film about Juma or Hugo. This is our film meaning an indigenous film that represents our issues, our threats, the lives we live are are portrayed in this film in a real way because Yanuni, the film, deals with also everyday problems. It's not just like we need to fight for the Amazon and we need to go after these people who are devastating it, the illegal miners and loggers. It's also about being a woman, being a family, having a kid, you know, not being able to take care of that kid in times of crisis when your mind is all about like we need to save our people and our territory. I mean, there's a scene in there where she just forgets her son and doesn't
mm,
pick him up from school, and she's
mm,
devastated because she just forgot, or she almost loses her baby because of stress of like not being able to deal with the issues she wants to do and having this high intensity life of constant crisis and threat, and how she almost loses the baby. There's these scenes where there's no heartbeat and there's like these moments of fear. And so we put all these in because we wanted to feel, we wanted that people understand the stakes as a human being to live this life of a resistance warrior, of like, being out there every day, risking your life for the greater good. That comes at a heavy price, and we wanted to show it in this way.
What does Yanuni mean? Why the title?
Hmm. Well, we don't want to give this away, actually. There's a line in the film where people will always wonder what does it mean, but it's a surprise. Like if you watch the film and then you will understand as the film ends where the title comes from. But it's a poetic title that the meaning is revealed throughout the film. So to be honest, I don't want to give it away right now. I think it's kind of yeah, it's nicer if you don't know, and then you're like, oh.
That's why. So you have to see the film. Thank you, Richard. It was lovely having this chat with you, and I hope everyone sees the film, Yanuni. And that was Richard Ladkani, the director of Yanuni. Great speaking with you, sir.
Moses, thank you so much. Thank you. Great questions. All the best.
Thank you.